kind of got silent and I just sank into my chair. I'm like, well, we knew this. And at this point, I know a lot of us are like, what do we have to do? Invent time travel? Hey guys, it's your girl Cameron, and I'm back at it again with another video. And today we are going to be having that conversation, the Grammys. The Grammys aired on Sunday, February 4th, and it sparked major conversation on social media. It brought up the age-old frustration of the Recording Academy snubbing artists, particularly black artists, and even more particularly, black female artists. On Sunday, Taylor Swift won Album of the Year, beating out the likes of SZA's SOS. And we realize, why do black female artists keep getting snubbed for some of these major categories? And what do we have to do to get it? And so this frustration comes up every year. We ask the question over and over, do the Grammys matter? Because they snub so many amazing projects and artists. So we sulk when our faves don't win while simultaneously cheering for our favorite artists when they do. So it's clear that we still apply merit to these awards. And I want to discuss this phenomenon and why the Grammys may never get it right. As music fans, what should we do about this? Do we change our expectations? Is it worth it? And what power do we have? Because it seems like every year we have this conversation. We give it legitimacy and then we take the legitimacy away. So we're going to talk about this today through the lens of the most recent Grammy Awards. And I really would love for you guys to like and comment down below. Do you guys think this is a genuine issue? Because I'm going to have a lot of things to say in this video that some people may not agree with. But I want us to have an open conversation and try to be empathetic and see other people's sides. So we're going to get into this. Hit that subscribe button down below if you'd like to see more commentary content like this. We are so close to 10K. So if you like pop culture content and commentary, I'm your girl. So hit that sub button. And thanks for tuning in today. And without further ado, let's just get straight into the video. Let's go. So let's talk about the impetus for this video. During the last Grammys Award, Jay-Z had a speech while he accepted the Dr. Dre Global Impact Award. And in his speech, he didn't just make it about him, but he seemingly mentioned his wife, Beyonce, and questioned openly on the Grammy stage the merit and the legitimacy of the Grammy Awards. Because if somebody like Beyonce could be awarded 32 times and still not have won Album of the Year or some of those biggest categories despite her inevitable impact, what are we really here for? He said, quote,
I'm just saying, we want y'all to get it right. We love y'all, we love y'all, we love y'all. We want y'all to get it right, at least get it close to right. And obviously it's subjective, it's music and it's opinion-based, but, some things, I don't want to embarrass this young lady, but she has more Grammys than everyone and never won Album of the Year. So even by your own metrics, that doesn't work. Think about that. The most Grammys, never won Album of the Year. That doesn't work. Some of you gonna go home tonight and feel like you've been robbed. Some of you may get robbed. Some of you don't belong in the category. Oh, no, that was it. No, when I get nervous, I tell the truth.
And as much as you say, what does Beyonce want? She's the most decorated artist in Grammy history. It's the principle, and Jay-Z highlighted the principle. So let's talk about the Grammys metrics and its flaws. From Macklemore winning Best Rap Album over Kendrick Lamar at the 2014 Grammys, to Beyonce losing Album of the Year to Beck in 2015. We consistently question the metrics of judging music when it comes to the Grammys. Not only do a lot of these snubbed projects have cultural impact and were artistically influential, but the music is good. And I understand with music, it's subjective. So we have to remember that even by the metrics of the Grammys, it cannot possibly reflect every time what people are listening to and what the streets are saying. So I think in order to frame this conversation properly, we do need to discuss how the Recording Academy works. The process starts with record companies and members submitting entries. A direct quote from the Recording Academy website says, "The Academy's voting members, all involved in the creative and technical processes of recording, then participate in 1. The nominating process that determines the 5 finalists in each category, and 2. The final voting process which determines the Grammy winners." So there's a screening. Reviewing sessions are held with over 350 experts in various music fields. They're not making technical judgments at this point, but they're making sure each song is placed in the correct category, which we already know that they get this wrong. They mess it up a lot. So that's already a flaw in the metric system. They also start nominating. So the first rounds of ballots are sent, and in this round, members are asked to vote only in their area of expertise. You have special nominating committees as well. And then final voting / the members vote in up to 10 categories across and up to 3 fields in the genre fields, plus the 4 categories of the general field to determine the winners. And then we have the results. So that's a very condensed version. I'm not trying to sit here and act like I know the full-fledged process. I don't think a lot of people even know the general idea of how they come to their conclusions. And how do you even get on the committee? To take it a step further, well, voting membership is for performers, songwriters, producers, engineers, instrumentalists, and other creators currently working in the recording industry. So, in order to potentially qualify and apply to be a member, you have to get 2 strong recommendations from peers in the music industry and discuss with the Academy your career and qualifications. Members can also be recommended from people currently in the Recording Academy, which can obviously help boost your bid to become a member. So as we see, these are everyday people, some with expertise, right, objectively, but we all have subjective opinions that already presents there's going to be flaws within the process that can reflect social trends, that can reflect people not culturally understanding music or references, and that can go unnoticed or uncounted for, which creates the common issue of snubbing. And I think the reason why people have beef with particularly the Grammys is because of the prestige and the way that they elevate themselves and present themselves as being more objective than subjective when they come to music judging. And maybe we did that as an audience, but it creates a frustration with audience nevertheless. And now it becomes an issue when you have to objectively compare artists. Because how is Mariah Carey a 5-time Grammy winner but nominated 34 times? Like, the math isn't mathing. She's one of the greatest songwriters, vocalists, musicians of all time. And she only has 5 Grammys. So when you start looking at artists who haven't had the same cultural impact, not just the cultural impact, but the talent and longevity, they've been honored and recognized by the Recording Academy tenfold. So there's automatically a lack of legitimacy. Sorry, not sorry. Now, let's get into the Album of the Year discrepancy and what the Grammys Awards this year had outrage with. Is this damn award? And Jay-Z, like we said before, talked about how Beyonce winning the most Grammys in history. She's never gotten this damn award, which doesn't even make sense. Because if you're saying all of my music is excellent enough for me to have won the most, I've never won Album of the Year. Like that's crazy. So this year, the main contenders were Taylor Swift, Midnights, and SZA, SOS. However, there were other nominated artists like World Music Radio by Jon Batiste, The Record by Boy Genius, Endless Summer Vacation by Miley Cyrus, Did You Know That There's a Long Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard by Lana Del Rey, The Age of Pleasure by Janelle Monáe, Guts by Olivia Rodrigo as well. So we had some pretty good albums in here, absolutely. But Taylor and SZA were, I think, the artists who people weren't anticipating to win the award, if anybody did. So my Twitter timeline specifically was seancing to summon SZA a win. Okay, like I had people on my timeline saying there will be riots in the streets if SZA does not win Album of the Year. That album was amazing. And I agree. SOS and the impact, I mean, this was SZA's return with a solo project for roughly 5 years. And it was a masterpiece. It was her most versatile project to date. She had a little bit of everything on here. So I personally appreciated the versatility. The records that her album broke, like being in the top 10 of the 200 Billboard pretty much all of 2023. Her stellar tour, which I saw, absolutely amazing and stunning performer. And she ruled this year. It's in the artistry, it's in the recognition. And I think a lot of people felt that it should be rewarded at this caliber for this award. So lo and behold, as we all could probably figure, Taylor Swift won with Midnights. And we weren't shocked. But Taylor was. You know, Taylor always acts like so surprised. And I think a few of us, like I know when she won, I wasn't angry. I was just more like, I just kind of got silent and I just sank into my chair. I'm like, well, we knew this. And mind you, I want to add context and I want to say that SZA is very grateful and she has extreme gratitude and she doesn't feel like she was snubbed. If that's her experience, I am happy for her because she's a winner. She said, quote, "I'm grateful I won 3. I could have left with nothing and I didn't, and I'm grateful. My parents got to see it and I didn't bomb on live television, and that was so scary. I faced some really big fears and I'm happy that it all went well, genuinely. And I'm happy for everybody." And this video is not here to make her feel like she should have done more or she shouldn't be happy. Okay? So let's put that out there. SZA's happy and I'm happy for her. And it brought up the conversation. What do black women have to do to win this damn award? Like, shit, what does anybody have to do to beat out Taylor Swift 8 times out of 10? When that girl drops, it's almost a clean sweep. She doesn't win every single award, but she gets those major categories 8 times out of 10. And at this point, I know a lot of us are like, what do we have to do? Invent time travel? Create a new genre? Like, the last black woman to win Album of the Year was in 1999, guys. The year I was born. Been 25 years exactly since a black woman won Album of the Year. And she won with The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. And it's an absolutely amazing and influential project. Very deserved. And only 3 black women, including Hill, have won the honor since the category was presented in the first Grammy Awards. Natalie Cole won in 1992 and Whitney Houston 2 years later. Now, Taylor Swift had made history by winning 4 Album of the Years. And I want you guys to put into perspective, Taylor Swift has been around a long time. But for her to only have been around as long as she has been and to have 4, that's a pretty big feat. Statistically speaking, you would think somebody who, like Beyonce, has 32 would have at least won once in her 30-year career, or however long she's been nominated for these awards. So you're telling me that in 25 years, with all of the contributions that black artists, particularly black women, have made to music through sound, fashion, boundary bending, reviving sounds that sometimes and often influence the industry, don't win, like wasn't good enough to win that award? And this is a legitimate question. I'm not trying to be sarcastic. I'm not. And it feels like a consistent slap in the face. So I'm going to say this before I get to this part in the video. This is going to take a bit of a turn. And I want people who might not understand where I'm coming from to pause. Don't start typing in the keyboards yet, but please just hear me out. Nobody's being a hater, but please just hear me out. Someone said, quote, "The Grammys have decided that at no point in history a black woman put out the best album of any given year in the last 25 years. Emancipation of Mimi, guys, is right there. It was nominated for Album of the Year, and it lost in 2006 to U2.
The Emancipation of Mimi, Mariah Carey. How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb, U2. State registration, Kanye West. How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb, U2.
I'm sick of this.
Freaking can't stand them. Y'all remember when U2 put all of their songs on our iPods? My mom still can't delete those songs till this day. We need a class action lawsuit. But Some people have said, well, what album have black women put out in the last 25 years that constitutes that? That's one right there. She was noted that at the end of the decade, she had the best song of the decade with We Belong Together. But hindsight is 2020, right? The Grammys just didn't, like, that's one right there. Renaissance lost to Harry freaking Styles. SOS is right there. Anti is right there. And when we talk about anti, we gotta discuss some of the biggest snubs that were not even nominated for Album of the Year. Mostly black artists are going to be on this list, but a couple of other artists. After Hours by The Weeknd was not even nominated for Album of the Year in the 2021 Grammys. Sweetener by Ariana Grande in 2019 was not nominated for Album of the Year. Control by SZA was not nominated for Album of the Year in 2018. Anti by Rihanna was not nominated for Album of the Year in 2017. Take Care by Drake was not nominated for Album of the Year in the 2013 Grammys. And Beyonce's 4 was not even nominated for Album of the Year in 2012. Guys, these are people who weren't even nominated for the category. These influential projects that I feel like were notable at the time and they've aged like fine wine. To not even be nominated is like, that's crazy. This is where genuinely I really want you guys to like try to hear what I'm saying. So when it seems like when it comes to these Grammys that people that look like me have a different set of metrics or a higher bar to reach. And Jay-Z said, that doesn't even make sense in your own metrics. I've been seeing on Twitter people say regarding the Album of the Year win for Taylor Swift Midnights.
Well, Taylor also won because she ruled the year. She had an amazing run. It's not just about the music.
But okay, what about when Beyonce had her years where she was on top of the world, on top of the music industry? Or Rihanna had her year. How about when Beyonce lost Album of the Year to Beck's Morning Phase in 2015, despite her self-titled album changing the way that music was released? What about that? That's never used as an excuse, but you know what is when Beyonce has lost these major categories?
Well, maybe the music wasn't that good. Beyonce's overrated.
But heaven forbid you say the same thing about Taylor Swift. So it's almost like the same metrics don't apply, if that makes sense. In one breath, you guys are sitting here saying, well, okay, maybe Taylor Swift's album wasn't that great, but she was on top of the world. She had the best year. Like, she was amazing. And that's valid. But what about a lot of other artists who didn't get Album of the Year despite having one of the most fruitful years of their career yet? The cultural impact, all of that. Then when they lose, you say, well, her album just wasn't that good. You make it about the music again. So, like, what is it? And it's that age-old tale of sometimes you have to be 10 times better to sometimes not even achieve the same accolades as someone else. And that's life. That's the harsh truth, y'all. It is. But I do wish that people would not deny that. When we talk about Beyonce, because she's like the poster child for this conversation. And this is not to like give Beyonce unnecessary sympathy because she's won tons of awards. But Grammy voters anonymously admitted that Beyonce wins so much that they've just often voted elsewhere. If Taylor has won this specific award 4 times in however many years, and she's the first artist to ever do so, why doesn't the same logic apply to Taylor Swift in this category? Or is it that the Grammys appreciates the idea of her breaking those records? Now, I would sit here and say, who gives a that she won 4? But when you guys use this logic for Beyonce, like, hey, a lot of the times I just haven't even voted for her because she has too many. But don't not vote for her to prove a point if you genuinely think the project is that good, because Beyonce has projects that are that good. Why does the logic flip when in this specific category Taylor has won overwhelmingly? Why wouldn't they be like, oh, let's this time give it to like Miley Cyrus, or let me give it to SZA, or somebody who people aren't expecting but had an excellent album? Why is that? To be honest, I'm not even going to get into the music comparisons because I really don't want to hurt your guys' feelings. I don't. But that wasn't a top 5 Taylor project, period. And some of her fans are saying it. I will preface it like this. It's not necessarily Taylor's fault the way that the world perceives or connects to her art. It's not. It's really not. She's making music, she's doing what she's doing, and it's not necessarily her fault. So I don't think it benefits us like just being so pissed at Taylor Swift. But it's also not the fault of Black artists being like born who they are and these metrics already existing before they step foot in the industry. And sometimes receiving the shorthand despite being one of the most iconic and influential artists of all time, right? So I already know I'm going to get comments that this convo is too race focused. And I'm not saying that everything is, but I think in the context of this conversation about the Grammys have been implying that. So that's why this conversation is focused there today, because it's a real thing. Okay? Like, babe, that comment doesn't faze me. I've heard it my whole life when trying to advocate for myself. So this is the conversation that I'm consistently seeing, and a lot of people are tired of that discrepancy. And I do have to add, there is a politics component as well, guys. Like, I get that it's not all just that. Actually, Matthew Knowles, Beyonce's father, came out and said that Columbia Records is part to blame for why Beyonce has never won Album of the Year. He said that Columbia isn't backing her enough in the voting process.
People feel like they nominate her for Album of the Year, but then they give it to someone who, in the eyes of a lot of fans, had an inferior album. And that's the question, is like, why are they singling her out in that category?
You have, going back to Adele and Beyonce on the same record label. The record label can only support one of those artists. You say, Beyonce has her success. Here's an opportunity to push Adele, so let's push her.
So this isn't so much the Grammys as it is the label, according to you.
It's a combination of all, but it starts with the label.
So this was the case, for example, with people like Adele and Harry Styles, who have won over Beyonce. So someone on Twitter expressed that they feel like the reason that Beyonce's label doesn't push her in specifically the Album of the Year category is because this specific accolade wouldn't do anything for Beyonce since she's already their moneymaker. So, in other words, they put other artists who will benefit from that promotion / promote revenue for their other artists. And that could be a reason why maybe Columbia is like, hey, Beyonce's Beyonce. She doesn't necessarily need this to propel her career, to sell more records. And that's a very legitimate observation. I'm not saying all of this is true, but that's just some speculation on the politics component. So, to conclude this video, why do we complain and still value the Grammys then? It's the idea that we despise the Grammys for all of these snubs, and we cope by saying it doesn't matter, while also crossing our fingers and rooting for our favorite artist regardless. So for example, I talked all this stuff about the Grammys, right? And not getting things right. But when Victoria Monet won Best Artist, I was literally screaming on my phone.
She won. Thank you. Oh, I just want to everybody. Thank you. If I know you, thank you.
Just with happiness that she won that award, right? And it makes you wonder this like dichotomy. You guys talk shit about the Grammys, you hate the Grammys, but you're still pulling and rooting for your favorite artist. And it obviously means something because we're so excited. There's two sides of the coin and two ways that I think we can look at the Grammys. You can look at it for the talent metric and prestige. And this does make music feel more objective. So if you win, you do feel like your craft is being rewarded at the highest level, which we know that this can always be flawed and bias can always be interjected into the equation. Or you can look at the Grammys as symbolism on how far somebody has come. And in many cases, I choose to see it this way. We can't take away the history of the Grammys and the prestige that has been reflected onto that award ceremony. You can't. So when I look at Victoria Monet's speech and her win, even though she's not a new artist, I know that was a huge confirmation for her and a huge symbolism on how far she's gone and how far she's come. Or if you look at SZA being the most nominated artist at the Grammys this year and also still winning multiple awards, her saying how grateful she is regardless of what happened, the Grammys is still such a representation on how far you've made it, how far you've come. These girls have expressed being close to giving up, working for years, and never really seeing the fruits of their labor. So that will never not be golden for me, to see people win who I feel like it really symbolizes something. But at the same time, with everything, you can't ignore the symbolism of Beyonce, who's won 32 awards. It may seem greedy to ask,
well, why can't she win this one?
right? It sounds ungrateful. I get that. But I think the issue is what it represents for Black artists, specifically Black female artists, and those who come after her. Like, when will it ever be enough? And that's where it leaves like this future question for people. I do think in general we should stop giving it that power. It's an award, it's a shiny trophy. It goes up on a shelf and it collects dust at the end of the day. However, it will be hard to stop giving it that value, just because you can objectively compare artists' careers with one another and it will always feel like a slap in the face. Like, that part will never not sting. Okay? Like, how does Celine and Mariah have 10 Grammys combined? And you have newer artists only out in the last 5 years who have 9 Grammys. It's hard not to make that comparison. And even when Mariah Carey accepted the Global Impact Award during her Recording Academy Honors that was presented by the Black Music Collective, she had a quote shading the Grammys in her speech.
Is this a real Grammy? I haven't seen one in so long.
But she's dead ass serious. We need to stop giving as much legitimacy to this award show. But a lot of the damage has been done that I don't think we'll ever feel vindicated or satisfied, just because historically you look at the amount of snubs, particularly that Black artists have experienced. So it's always going to leave a sour and bitter taste in your mouth. It's really just another classic tale of us wanting our just due and being rewarded properly like our peers. So, what do you guys think? Comment down below and please let me know. Let's chat, and I would love if we could have a very honest conversation, not a dismissive one. So think about that, and I will try to get back to as many of you guys as I can. Hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in my next video.